And again, I'll just do the download button here. And let's have a look here. So we could do the same thing. Look, genuinely, it's the same thing every time. I always do the same things. I have a look at the metatarsal heads, make sure there's no evidence of any fracture there. No, they all look good and everything looks nicely aligned. I can't convincingly say I can see any stress fractures. Let's zoom in a bit. And sometimes you feel like, oh, you know what, there's a little bit of increased cortication, but it's so uniform. It doesn't look fluffy. It doesn't look fluffy like you'd expect with a stress fracture. So I wouldn't really go for it. Again, you can see that second metatarsal base aligns nicely with that intercuneiform space as well. So that's good. Looking at the metatarsal heads, and they all look okay. So no stress fractures. And then you want to go look at the terminal tufts. We can see the nail bed is like so, nail bed is like so. So you kind of attuned your eyes to what the nail beds look like. And then you want to see and make sure there's no terminal tuft fracture. Maybe someone stamped on their foot or something like that. And then you want to then look at the next very common place for a fracture is going to be the base of fifth. And this one does look like it's a little bit irregular around there. So we may come back to that. And then you want to have a look at the navicular, like I said, have a good look around this area. It seems to be a very common place to get fractures. And of course, the ankle, sometimes you're lucky, well, lucky, unlucky for the patient, lucky for us to pick up a fracture there. But then actually, when you go to the slightly more oblique view, you can first off see there's a little bit. So if you look at that sort of soft tissue, subcutaneous tissues, it looks a little bit more edematous around this area. And just here, you can see that there is what looks like a fracture, but it looks like there's a fracture going this way and potentially another fracture going this way, not convincingly going to the articular surface, but definitely a fracture at the base of fifth. And that's a very, very common fracture to have. So this is a base of fifth fracture. Jones fracture. Oh, man. I always have to remind myself of these ones. I genuinely look these up. So why don't we all look it up together then? What do you think? Extra articular? Yeah, I think it does look extra articular. So let's see, Jones fracture. Can I drag it across? Let's see if I can drag this across. No, it doesn't. Does that work? Okay, what I'm going to do is open a new tab and then does that drag? It did work. I never knew they could do that. Okay, anyway, that's a good, nice. I literally just dragged the picture and dragged it onto the Chrome and it worked. So someone's asking, is a Jones fracture? So a avulsion fracture is where you get a pulling. A Jones fracture would be across like this, and a stress fracture would be across there. So actually, I would go, but it looks like you feel you got one there and one there. So I reckon there's a combination here because you've got almost two fractures here. One that goes across like this, and that could be an avulsion, and that would be your base of fifth. So it'd be the peroneus brevis tendon. Yeah, the peroneus brevis tendon would extend and attach to here. So that could pull it and that would end up with a fracture. But you've also got a fracture that doesn't have any articular surface involvement at all, extending into the intermetatarsal space. So I assume you mean this area over here. So you're worried about, so this is actually the tarsometatarsal space. The intermetatarsal space would be between these guys here. So I get, yeah, this goes all the way across. Oh, if that's what you mean, then yeah, it is going across towards that sort of more medial aspect of the base of the fifth metatarsal as well. So I think this one, which has actually turned out to be a better learning case than I expected, is a combination of the two, isn't it? It has to be. Right. So anyway, so that's the only fracture that we can see. And everything else looks okay on this particular plain film. Right. So we have got through. So what I try and do is give you guys a fair few like plain x-rays just to sort of get into things. And obviously there's varying ability that turn up. And then we do some kind of interesting CTs, like just CTs I thought were quite good. I have a few learning points.